Welcome. Tonight I just wanted to talk about this tier that I've been dabbling with in the past week and a half. It's called Gold, Silver, Crystal, Never Used. Um, a tier we thought not to have at least of those older gens, like originally in competitive Pokemon. In the first two gens, there wasn't a well-defined never used tier. Underused was already without any representation in national tournaments. So here we are in 2020 with one of the major contributors being Earthworm, and in time there were also other people who aren't quite as active as far as the meta is concerned today, such as Xeze Master and Use, who each have YouTube channels, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. Yeah, the meta was defining itself over time, and there were actually quite a lot of important changes over the course of the past year. These were the top mons that you'd mostly see, and two of these are extremely bulky water types, and one was an electric type with water coverage. Yes, Raichu and Gen 2 knew Surf, which was very hectic. That also granted it the possibility of a third coverage move in a Hidden Power or a Rest Sleep Talk, which was extremely stally. And the one of the alternatives was to run Execute, as it seemed quite viable, but now it kind of dropped in usage now that since the banning of Golduck and Poliwrath and Raichu. Previously there were even older mons that threatened this tier, like Pikachu with Light Ball, and Feraligatr, Haunter, Mr. Mime. Underused and never used, you might see in some of the older videos that there are, were a little bit mixed, and you can't say that, in a way, the mons that are pretty good here aren't also possibly viable in the other tiers higher up. Well, the one tier. So, fast forward to 2020, and we've had a change in the tier list. Xatu is the best Pokemon. And then there's Octillery, there's also Flareon. I don't know if Earthworm's opinion on Flareon changed over time. I came to understand that Flareon is great. It has Baton Pass and growth, making it extremely threatening under the right circumstances, and it has good coverage in fire and grass. Having said that, grass being the hidden power move of your choice, but you could obviously change it to other types as well. But that also means that it gets walled by other fire types. And mainly the other fire types like to use, for instance, Hidden Power Grass, of course, but also I've seen some run Hidden Power Rock to hit opposing Magmar, for instance. Personally, I like Magmar more because it works sort of like an Electabuzz. It's has a pretty good speed. Thunder Punch for coverage against water types. Hits Xatu pretty hard, hits Octillery pretty hard. It knows Psychic even. But if we were here talking about the tier, I want to talk about the number one spot, and that's Xatu. The thing with this tier is that we've banned a bunch of mons, And although there aren't that many, there are still things that threaten Xatu. They're a lot fewer, and dark types aren't quite as common. There aren't that many things that resist the psychic type. Um, so psychic, as the namely like the move, is extremely spammable, and Xatu has high special attack. It doesn't take spikes damage, and when you switch in, so it also takes advantage of spikes of its teammates, which means that things that switch in will take 30 to 40 damage each time, which is quite decisive in certain matchups. It also makes it a lot harder for the team to outlast your own. So that's what makes it really good. There's also Octillery, which is something worth mentioning with even higher attack. As Earthworm mentions here, it was actually a top Pokemon in the Mr. Mime and Pikachu meta. And it's back again because there aren't that many things that check electrics, and the best electric now is, speed ties with it. Octillery isn't as bulky as the previously banned water types, but it has that special stat which allows it to really, really shine, and excellent coverage, I might add. Not only ice, but even flamethrower, and then it can use Hidden Power Electric to hit other water types. It has Amnesia too, to wall the special attackers, and its Stab Water is just great. So yeah, so we've spoken about these. I recommend looking at this link here, which might give you a good idea of what is good and what is the potential of this tier. And also there's a spreadsheet which I will look for somewhere because I don't recall where the link to this is. This was also compiled by Earthworm himself, and it's might give you a good idea of what the stats are and what the potential is. I've also had a look at it and tried to point out a couple of other things. For instance, Ariados has access to Spider Web, which functions the same way as Mean Look and Baton Pass. It can also pass growth beyond just agility. So there is potential in some of their mons here. Now, onto the types and the builds. I at least wanted to focus on a couple of the basic spreads, or not spreads, but movesets. So, Xatu is a mon with a lot of potential, as we've mentioned. A lot of its moves can help to benefit its ability at spamming attacks. It kind of functions as some sort of HP legend in a way, like a Zapdos, kind of. Although, even in this tier, a lot less threatening, probably. Psychic, as I mentioned, spammable as hell. If you don't want to run any hidden powers because you don't seem like that's worth the move slot, you can run Drill Peck, which deals a decent amount of damage, takes care of certain, perhaps grass types, hits the fighting types, but Psychic already does that. But what Psychic doesn't do is hit dark types, and Drill Peck actually, from what I've read, 2-hit KOs one of the only dark types in the tier, Murkrow. So it's also extremely pretty fast. and it's faster than Murkrow. That means that Murkrow doesn't really have that many opportunities to switch in. And then the other dark type that's in the tier doesn't even have Pursuit, so it's not all that threatening. It has low special attack. Sneasel. Sneasel doesn't have Pursuit. It has low special attack, so the Ice type and Dark typing don't really do it any favors. It has high attack though, so it could hit you with Shadow Ball. But ideally, against a Pursuit user that is really weak, you actually want to stay in. And hit it with, if you don't have Drill Peck, you can always hit it with a Hidden Power move. There's Hidden Power Dark, which is the standard set you get. If you click on any, if you look here in this box, you will always see HP type Dark, because that it assumes that you have max IVs, so you don't have to lower any stats. Alternatively, if you want to make sure that you hit bulky water types pretty well as well, you might want to run Hidden Power Electric. Hidden Power Electric also hits Xatu, so opposing Xatu, so that's always good. And Nightshade is pretty consistent as well for even bulkier mons that don't mind getting hit either by Psychic or the Hidden Power moves. It obviously depends on what kind of coverage you're looking for. Xatu obviously has lots and lots of potential. Sadly, though it's a bird, it doesn't have Whirlwind, so you can't play huge mind games with your opponent. But there's Haze, which isn't bad. I've seen Giga Drain being used on certain sets. There is access to Feint Attack, so it doesn't miss, but that is, for the most part, what you see. And there is a Thief variant. I'm not saying that it's necessarily this kind of set. It would probably look more like this, maybe. You want to run Rest Thief to steal lefties. Pretty viable. You can, if you manage to make the right prediction, you can take away some of the leftovers from a mon that is expecting to switch in on your Psychic. And Rest Talk, really, really good. I can't emphasize enough that Sleep Talking on a fast special attacker is usually a good idea, at least if it has some bulk and it's not too much of a glass cannon. And offense makes up for lack of defense and is in and of itself a form of defense. So that's why Rest Talk is good, because things don't just want to switch in on this, even if you do have to make a prediction. I mean, even if there is a roll between the choice of the three moves that Sleep Talk has to call upon. Another mon that I like to consider is Magnemite. Magnemite has a measly 25 HP, or base HP, but it has extremely high special attack stat on a mon that is with a typing that offensively is extremely good. Thunder is a move that is excellent even on such a little guy like this, and with a stat like that, it's actually able to get some key one-hit KOs by spamming Thunder. It can Oko Xatu. I said Zaptu. It threatens Dugong. It Okos. I'm pretty sure it Okos Octillery, definitely with spikes. And Hidden Power Grass is, or Water would be the second move of your choice if you want to run a second attack, because it still outspeeds mons like Graveler, which have dual weakness. If you expect to have instead an Earthquake user that isn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily resist, then you just want to go for Thunder, even against Sudowoodo, because it has higher special defense, so you might as well go for the Para. Dugtrio doesn't like to get hit by Hidden Power Grass, though. And this is also a mon that would take high advantage of the use of spikes. Reflect helps out for support. It doesn't run Light Screen. Rest. And the other thing I wish to mention is that Rest Talk on this mon is also quite viable in certain situations. It has the Steel typing, which allows it to resist Rock type attacks and also normal attacks. Normal types generally have this function of being wall breakers in the tier against most of the special attackers. So, from what I've seen, with the exception of Stantler and Lickitung that are able to run Earthquake, so the Earthquake variants, normal types are pretty much walled by this set. There's also Thunder Wave if you want to favor your other slower mons like Octillery. And going on to the other roles, there are these defensive mons. So they each have a different role in defense. Personally, I wouldn't really know how to describe Tangela because he's not excellent. It doesn't run Leech Seed, but it has Stun Spore and Sleep Powder. It takes a lot of physical hits well. It can learn Amnesia. Dugong is your go-to rest and sleep talker. It will eat all of those special attacks up. It's really bulky. Even Dugtrio doesn't like to doesn't want to stay in if it's faster because it Stab Earthquake, Stab Rock Slide, no, it's Stab Rock Slide. Rock Slide, they don't do that much damage. This thing is extremely bulky. It even takes on Xatu very effectively if you don't have any Spadef drops, even HP Electric. And it has Stab Ice Beam, so it 2-hit KOs Xatu in return. Mantine is more on the passive side. I don't think you run Rest Sleep Talk on this, but whatever floats your boat, really. It has more special defense, so it's bulkier on that end of the spectrum. Wheezing is probably another one of the more proactive defensive mons. It has the fire and electric moves of your choice: Sludge Bomb, Pain Split, Explosion. It walls Primeape pretty effectively, which is generally a big threat on most teams because it's also Primeape speed ties with Xatu. Chuckle, pretty predictable. Not much to say. It is what it is. It walls normals. That's what it's supposed to do. Corsola has access to Recover, so that's pretty good. There's also mons with either utility functions or offensive that are offensive geared in a way. Dunsparce is a pretty good curse abuser. I wouldn't say that it's actually your typical bulky mon. Like, I wouldn't rely on it defensively, but Noctowl has high special defense and knows Whirlwind, Hypnosis, Nightmare. Sudowoodo, pure rock, so doesn't take super effective damage from ice. With the extra special defense, it definitely gives it some benefits that other rock and ground types don't have. It knows self-destruct, and it's pretty good. It's a good curse user. This is also a good curse user. Actually, all 4 of these are good curse users. Then there are your physical attackers. Primate, unlike, say, your Machoke or some of the fighting types, it doesn't learn Earthquake. I mean, that's not crucial for a fighting type, because fighting Rock is pretty good already in and of itself, but it will get walled by Wheezing, so that's a bit of an issue. And it has access to Meditate, but there's a lot of potential in this mon. It's pretty fast. You can sub, so if you expect your opponent to switch out, you can start dealing a lot of damage too. Cross Chop is really good. Sneasel, I don't really like it. Alternatively, you can run Hitmonlee. And there's Fearow, good at spamming stab normal moves. Kingler has extremely high attack, highest attack in the tier. Dugtrio is more of a revenge killer, but not that strong. Flareon has high attack, so it's worth mentioning if you want to use Double Edge alongside Fire Blast and other moves. There's your special attackers. I either mentioned the ones that I haven't already mentioned, or the ones with highest special attack of their respective typing. So Magmar is it can learn Fire Blast, it can learn Thunder Punch, Psychic, so that's really good. Then you can just give it another hidden power move. It learns Cross Chop even, so it's a mixed sweeper potentially. Gastly does what Gengar does, except it doesn't learn Ice Punch. It's pretty good. It also walls poison and fighting types. Abra has extremely high special attack, like Octillery. I already mentioned that. Venomoth and Sunflora aren't really amazing. Sunflora is the worst. Sunflora is really bad. It's even bad for a grass type. Just don't use this. And yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. As you can see here, there are other roles that are filled out by the other mons in these tiers. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'd like to mention one thing. There's something that I'd like to announce. So there are 2 important dates following. Tomorrow, which is actually in a couple of minutes, is my birthday, and the day after that is the birthday of an important mon, that is Mewtwo. And I was thinking about opening a sub-room in the Ruins of Alph Room at around between maybe 6 and 7 in the evening, perhaps later, to on Thursday. So 6, 7 in the evening of GMT +1. And I would like to organize some Ubers tours where people can make teams with Mewtwo to celebrate the birthday of Mewtwo on its birthday, which is February 6th. So I'll leave a notice that might confirm that, either on the YouTube community bar. You can also join the Discord if that might interest you, try and hit me up there. Yeah, so GG's to everyone. I hope you guys try out this tier. It was a lot of fun for me to play in a tournament, and I love you.